latest news update from Western Mass News.
I'm Chris Pisano with a look at your headlines. 3 people were arrested on gun charges Sunday in Chicopee. Police conducted a traffic stop on Chicopee Street after noticing a car driving with no front license plate. Police say the driver, 35-year-old Turan Bowens of East Hampton, didn't have a valid license. When asked for identification, one of the passengers provided an ID card, while the other refused to give his name. All 3 men were eventually removed from the car and arrested. During a search of that car, police found a gun that was reported stolen in 2020, as well as several bags of marijuana. All 3 men are now facing several charges. The East Hampton School Committee met virtually Monday to review applications for an interim school superintendent. This after their 2 previous offers for a superintendent fell through in recent weeks. Last Monday, the committee voted to hire a 1-year interim superintendent with the option to offer that candidate an additional year depending on their experience level. That meeting left off with school committee chair saying she would compile a list of possible candidates. And an East Hampton man has pleaded guilty to destruction of evidence and improper disposal of a body on Providence Road in Westford back in 2019. 59-year-old Daniel Paris of East Hampton left the body of Melissa Mestry down an embankment on the side of Providence Road, disposing of her belongings and never notifying authorities of her death. He pleaded guilty in Middlesex Superior Court last week and was sentenced to 7 to 8 years in state prison.
I'm meteorologist Jana Brown with a check of your forecast. We'll have some scattered cloud cover with some sunshine mixing in for Tuesday. Temperatures a touch cooler than today, with highs only making it into the low to mid 60s for the Berkshires. Once you get into the Pioneer Valley, some middle to upper 60s expected, with a breeze out of the north-northeast at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cooler but still dry for Tuesday, and we remain dry through the end of the week for the most part. High pressures in control Wednesday, bringing us back to seasonable temperatures with full sunshine. Then our wind direction shifts more west and southwest through the end of the week, and that's going to definitely bring in some warmer temperatures. But a few showers and storms rotating around the area of high pressure could potentially impact the area Thursday evening and again Friday evening. I think Friday evening might be our best shot. Doesn't look like anything severe at this point, but showers and maybe a thunderstorm are possible. Temperatures will be close to 80 even going into the upcoming weekend. Saturday looking warm but dry with partly cloudy skies. We're a bit cooler Sunday, but also dry with a high of 72 for Mother's Day. And then shower chances increase for early next week.
Stay with Western Mass News on air, online, and on our app throughout the day for breaking news, weather, and exclusive content.